Commander Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the Earth Navy vessel Voyager and stared at the strange message flashing on the main screen. His eyes widened as he read it again. After decades of searching the stars for intelligent life, first contact had finally happened. And it wasn't humans who found aliens. The aliens had found them. "Is this real?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lieutenant Susan Miller nodded. As the ship's xenolinguist, she had spent the last 6 hours decoding the message. "Yes, sir. It's an invitation from a species called the Zoraxians. They want us to join something called the Galactic Confederation." Alan ran his hand through his short brown hair. "And there are 27 other spacefaring civilizations already in this confederation." "That's what they claim, sir," Susan replied. Her fingers moved quickly across her tablet as she pulled up more information. "The Zoraxians say they're an amphibious species. They've invited us to a peace summit on a neutral planet called Harmonious." Alan stared out the viewport at the endless expanse of stars. Humanity had only reached the nearest star systems. The idea that there was an entire galactic community out there was overwhelming. 3 days later, Earth's government assembled an emergency meeting. Leaders from around the world gathered to discuss the invitation. After hours of debate, they decided to accept. "We need to send our best," said the Secretary General. "People who represent the best of humanity." In the end, they selected seasoned diplomat Gregory Palmer to lead the mission. He had negotiated peace treaties in Earth's most difficult conflict zones. At 55, his calm demeanor and thoughtful approach had earned him respect worldwide. Military advisor Major Karen Jones would join him. She wasn't just skilled in combat. She understood strategy and alien psychology better than most. With her short red hair and serious eyes, she looked unassuming, but her mind was sharp as a knife. The scientific attaché would be Dr. William Foster, a brilliant physicist with an easy smile and endless curiosity. He had helped develop Earth's faster-than-light drive and spoke passionately about scientific cooperation between species. A week before departure, the team gathered at the Space Launch Facility in Nevada. The diplomatic vessel Olive Branch waited for them, sleek and white against the blue sky. "Are we ready for this?" Karen asked as they walked toward the ship, meeting not just one alien species, but representatives from 27 different civilizations. Gregory smiled. "We've prepared as much as we can. The rest we'll figure out when we get there." William couldn't contain his excitement. "Think about what we'll learn. Their technology must be centuries beyond ours." The three of them, along with engineer Olivia Martinez, security officer Frank Rodriguez, medical officer Dr. Samantha Lee, and Chef Peter Clark, formed the core of Earth's first diplomatic mission to the stars. On the night before launch, Susan Miller called Commander Allen with news. "Sir, I've been analyzing more of their communications. Something seems odd." "What is it?" Allen asked. "The tone has changed since our first messages. They seem nervous about meeting us, almost afraid." Allen frowned. "Afraid? Of us? We've been nothing but friendly." "I know, sir. I can't explain it. But their latest message included detailed instructions about not bringing certain materials that seem perfectly harmless. And they've asked 3 times if we understand their safety protocols." "Well, we're going to a peace meeting," Allen said. "Make sure Palmer knows about this. Tell him to be extra careful not to alarm them." The next morning, as the Olive Branch lifted off into the clear blue sky, none of the humans aboard realized that many of their normal behaviors and biological traits were considered terrifying by galactic standards. They had no idea that the simple act of arriving at a peace meeting would accidentally terrify the galaxy. As the ship accelerated toward the stars, Gregory Palmer looked at his team with confidence. "Remember," he said, "we represent all of humanity. Let's make Earth proud." Little did he know that their very presence would soon send shockwaves through the galactic community. The journey to Harmonious would take 3 weeks. The human delegation used this time to study the information package The Zoraxians had sent about the various alien species they would meet. Gregory Palmer sat in his quarters aboard the Olive Branch, reviewing files on his tablet. The more he read about the Galactic Confederation, the more questions he had. 27 different civilizations, each with their own biology, culture, and history. How had they all managed to find peace? A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Engineer Olivia Martinez stood in the doorway, holding her own tablet. "Sir, I've been studying the technical specifications they sent us," she said. Her dark eyes were troubled. "Something strange is going on." Gregory motioned for her to enter. "What have you found?" Olivia sat down and showed him her screen. "Their technology is more advanced than ours in many ways, but they power everything differently. They use something similar to our solar energy, but they seem terrified of nuclear power, even the safe fusion drives we use." "Maybe they had bad experiences with it," Gregory suggested. "That's what I thought too," Olivia said. "But it's not just nuclear energy. They avoid many power sources that we consider perfectly safe. It's like they're extremely cautious about everything." Down the corridor, Security Officer Frank Rodriguez was running the team through standard safety drills. He stood in the ship's small gym, demonstrating defensive moves to Dr. Foster and Dr. Lee. "In an emergency, stay together," Frank explained. "If we get separated, meet at the ship. If the ship is compromised, find high ground and wait for extraction." "Do we really need to prepare for danger at a peace meeting?" asked Samantha Lee, the medical officer. Frank nodded seriously. "Standard protocol. We hope for the best but prepare for everything else." What Frank didn't know was that such preparation would be seen as extreme military training by other species in the Confederation. Most had evolved without the constant vigilance that characterized human survival instincts. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. Lee was making her own discoveries. She examined the biological data on the various alien species with growing amazement. "This is fascinating," she said to Major Karen Jones, who had stopped by for her daily health check. "Most of these species have evolved in much more stable environments than humans. They can't handle the temperature variations we consider normal, and their tolerance for different atmospheric conditions is very limited." Karen looked over her shoulder at the screen. "Are we going to have trouble breathing on Harmonious?" Samantha shook her head. "No, they've created environments suitable for all species, but I'm starting to understand why they sent so many health and safety protocols. By their standards, humans are incredibly resilient." As the Olive Branch traveled deeper into space, the human delegation received increasingly strange messages from their Zoraxian guides. The aliens asked multiple times if the humans understood the meeting protocols. They wanted constant updates on the ship's position. They even asked if the humans needed any calming substances before the meeting. "I don't get it," Susan Miller said to Commander Allen during their daily communication. "It's like they're afraid we'll do something unpredictable." "Keep everyone on their best behavior," Allen advised. "We don't want to start our first interstellar relationship with a misunderstanding." 2 days before arrival, the Olive Branch received a transmission from a Zoraxian ship that would escort them to the space station. The alien captain appeared on screen, his blue amphibious face unreadable to human eyes. "Greetings, humans," the Zoraxian said. "We are pleased you have come. We must ask one final time. Your delegation understands the importance of remaining calm during all proceedings." Gregory exchanged confused glances with his team before responding. "Of course, we are diplomats, dedicated to peace." The Zoraxians seemed to relax slightly. "Excellent. Please follow our ship precisely. Any deviation from the approach path could cause concern among some members of the Confederation." As the communication ended, Frank leaned toward Gregory. "Why do they keep talking to us like we're unexploded bombs?" Gregory shook his head. "I don't know, but we're about to find out." The space station orbiting Harmonious was an impressive sight. It looked like a giant silver wheel spinning slowly against the backdrop of a blue-green planet. Hundreds of ships of various shapes and sizes docked at its outer ring. As the olive branch approached, Gregory Palmer and his team gathered at the viewing window. None of them had ever seen anything like it. "It's beautiful," whispered William Foster, his eyes wide with wonder. The Zoraxian escort ship guided them to a docking port. Once they were safely attached to the station, Major Karen Jones checked everyone's appearance one last time. "Remember, we represent all of Earth," she said. "Best behavior, everyone." The airlock doors slid open. A Zoraxian diplomat stood waiting for them. He was about 5 feet tall with blue-green skin that glistened slightly. His large eyes blinked sideways, and gill-like structures fluttered on his neck. "Welcome to Harmonious," the Zoraxian said in perfect English. "I am Diplomatic Liaison Vex. It is an honor to meet the first human delegation." Gregory stepped forward with a smile and extended his hand. "Ambassador Gregory Palmer of Earth, the honor is ours." The Zoraxian stared at Gregory's outstretched hand. After a moment of hesitation, he slowly reached out his own webbed hand. When they touched, Vex's eyes widened, and he quickly pulled back. "Is something wrong?" Gregory asked. Your hand has hard parts inside it," Vex said, his voice shaking slightly. "Oh, you mean my bones?" Gregory said, confused. "Yes, humans have an internal skeleton." Vex made a strange gurgling sound that the translation device interpreted as nervous laughter. "Of course, we were informed. It's just different to actually feel it." Susan Miller, standing behind Gregory, made a mental note. Did some species not have internal skeletons? Vex led them through a wide corridor where various aliens moved about their business. The humans tried not to stare, but it was difficult. They saw beings with tentacles, others with multiple limbs, some floating in personal bubbles, and others moving on what looked like treads. Even more notable was how the aliens reacted to the humans. Many stopped to stare. Some moved quickly away. Others huddled together and whispered as the humans passed. "Why are they looking at us like that?" Frank Rodriguez whispered. "We're probably the first humans they've ever seen," Karen replied quietly. Vex showed them to a large meeting room with a circular table. "You may rest here while the welcoming ceremony is prepared. Can I offer refreshments?" Dr. William Foster stepped forward eagerly. "We'd love to learn about your scientific achievements. Has the Confederation developed quantum computing? What about your approach to sustainable energy?" Vex's gill structures fluttered rapidly. "You wish to discuss technology now, without preparation." "Just curious," William said with a friendly smile. "Dr. Foster is our scientific attaché," Gregory explained. "He's very enthusiastic about knowledge exchange." "I see," Vex said, his voice strained. "And you regularly discuss such dangerous matters casually." William looked confused. "Dangerous? How is science dangerous?" "Perhaps we should focus on the refreshments," Samantha Lee suggested, sensing tension. Vex seemed relieved. "Yes, we have prepared special food and drink for humans based on your biological data. Our analysis suggests you can consume substances that would be deadly to many Confederation species." "Like what?" Chef Peter Clark asked with interest. "You consume a stimulant called caffeine, correct? And alcohol. Both are highly toxic to most species." Peter nodded. "I've actually brought some Earth delicacies to share." Vex's eyes widened. "You brought potentially toxic substances to a peace meeting?" "Just some chocolate and coffee," Peter said. "And a few bottles of wine for celebrations." The Zoraxian pressed a button on his wrist device. 2 security guards appeared almost instantly. "Is everything okay?" Gregory asked, concerned. "Yes," Vex said unconvincingly. "Standard procedure. Your offerings will need to be analyzed and properly contained." As Peter reluctantly handed over his carefully packed Earth foods, Major Jones noticed something strange. The security guards were keeping their distance, handling the packages with extreme caution. They looked at the humans not with curiosity, but with fear. "Ambassador," she whispered to Gregory, "I think we're scaring them." Gregory watched as the guards hurried away with Peter's gifts. But why? We haven't done anything threatening. Maybe it's not what we've done, Samantha suggested quietly. Maybe it's what we are. The welcoming ceremony began 2 hours later in a large circular hall. Representatives from all 27 Confederation species gathered to meet the humans. Gregory and his team stood in a line, trying to look friendly and peaceful. A tall, thin alien with silvery skin and no visible mouth stepped forward. The translator device identified him as High Counselor Zim of the Ethereals, current leader of the Confederation. "We welcome our new friends from Earth," Zim said, his words appearing as text on the humans' translation devices. "May this meeting begin a long and peaceful relationship between all our peoples." The crowd of aliens made various sounds that seemed to be applause. Gregory smiled and nodded his thanks. Then William Foster told a small joke about traveling so far to meet new friends. Susan Miller and Olivia Martinez laughed politely. Suddenly, the room went quiet. Many of the aliens took steps back. Some made distressed noises. "Did I say something wrong?" William whispered. Vex hurried over to them. "The sound you just made. The open-mouth display with the strange noises. What was that?" "You mean laughing?" Susan asked, confused. "Laughing." Vex repeated the word carefully. "This is a happy behavior, not aggressive." "Of course it's happy," Gregory said. "Humans laugh when they're amused or enjoying themselves." Vex turned to the crowd and spoke rapidly in a language the translators didn't catch. Slowly, the aliens seemed to relax, though many still watched the humans with cautious eyes. The ceremony continued with representatives from each species greeting the humans. Some seemed curious, others clearly nervous. A small, furry alien with 6 limbs approached Susan Miller and asked politely about human sleep cycles. "Humans typically sleep once per day cycle, for about 8 hours, Susan explained. The alien's fur stood on end. 8 continuous hours. In an unconscious state. "Yes," Susan said. "Is that unusual?" "Most species take brief rest periods while remaining alert," the alien explained. "To become unconscious for hours while appearing dead would be." The alien didn't finish the sentence, but backed away slowly. Across the room, Frank Rodriguez was speaking with a group of security officers from various species. They asked about his training. "Standard Earth security protocols," Frank explained. "Combat training, survival skills, emergency response." "You train for combat?" one of the officers asked. "Even as diplomats?" "Just basic training," Frank said. "Everyone in our military learns these skills." The alien security officers exchanged looks. One of them whispered something that sounded like predator behaviors. Meanwhile, Gregory Palmer was speaking with several high-ranking diplomats. The conversation turned to Earth's history. "Our world has had many conflicts," Gregory admitted, "but we've learned from them. We've built peaceful societies, and now we're reaching to the stars with hopes of friendship." "And how quickly did your species develop space travel?" a plant-like diplomat asked. "From our first powered flight to reaching our moon took about 66 years, Gregory said proudly. "And we developed faster than light travel just 30 years after that." The diplomats fell silent. One of them, a crystalline being, made a sound like chimes in the wind. "That rate of technological advancement is unprecedented," the crystalline being said. "Most species take centuries to progress through each stage." Gregory didn't understand why this information seemed to disturb them. He was trying to highlight human innovation and adaptability, not frighten anyone. Across the hall, Dr. Samantha Lee was having a similar experience. She was explaining to a medical officer that humans could survive in temperature ranges from well below freezing to well above body temperature. "And your species can regrow some damaged tissues?" the alien doctor asked. "Yes, we can heal from many injuries," Samantha said. "Our bodies are quite resilient." The alien made notes on a device. "And you mentioned earlier that humans continue to function even when parts of your body are severely damaged." Well, yes. We can survive the loss of limbs, some organs, significant blood loss. As Samantha spoke, she noticed more and more aliens gathering to listen. Their expressions were hard to read, but their body language suggested growing concern. By the end of the welcoming ceremony, news had spread throughout the station. Humans were resilient, potentially dangerous, and inexplicably friendly despite their terrifying capabilities. And this was just their first day at the Peace Conference. The next morning, the Peace Conference officially began. All 27 civilization representatives, plus the human delegation, gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall. The room was designed to accommodate beings of all shapes and sizes, with special areas for aquatic species and those who needed different atmospheres. High Counselor Zim opened the proceedings. Today marks a historic moment as we welcome the 28th spacefaring species to our Confederation. Let us begin with presentations from our new friends. Gregory Palmer stood and walked to the speaking platform. He felt the eyes of hundreds of aliens on him as he moved. "Thank you for your warm welcome," he began. "Earth is honored to join this gathering of peaceful civilizations. We bring with us a desire to learn, to share, and to build friendships across the stars." His words were translated into various languages, filling the room with a symphony of sounds. Some species received the translations through devices, while others seemed to understand directly. "To help you know us better," Gregory continued, "our experts will share information about humanity. First, Dr. Samantha Lee will discuss human biology." Samantha took his place at the platform. She had prepared slides showing human anatomy and physiology. As she began her presentation, she noticed the room growing quieter. "Humans are carbon-based omnivores," she explained, showing a diagram of the human digestive system. "We can eat both plant and animal matter. Our bodies can process a wide range of foods that might be toxic to other species." She moved to the next slide showing the human skeletal structure. "Our internal framework of bones provides support and protection for our organs." A small alien in the front row raised a tentacle. "Your young are born with these hard internal structures." "No," Samantha replied. "Human babies have softer cartilage that gradually hardens into bone as they grow." This caused a wave of murmuring through the audience. The concept of growing internal armor seemed to disturb many of the aliens. Samantha continued, explaining how humans could survive in various environments. "We can adapt to temperatures from below freezing to well above body temperature. Our skin provides protection against minor radiation, and our immune systems fight off many harmful organisms." With each fact she shared, the atmosphere in the room grew more tense. When she mentioned that humans could survive for days without water and weeks without food, several delegates left the room. After Samantha finished, engineer Olivia Martinez gave her presentation on human technology. She tried to focus on Earth's peaceful achievements, but questions kept steering her toward more concerning topics. "Yes, we did split the atom relatively early in our technological development," she admitted when asked. "But we've learned to use nuclear power safely. And your spacecraft use controlled explosions for propulsion?" asked a delegate from a gaseous species. "Well, in simple terms, yes," Olivia said. "But our engines are designed with multiple safety systems." One delegate stood up. "You built interstellar engines despite understanding the risks of catastrophic failure. How could your species take such chances?" Olivia wasn't sure how to answer. What seemed like normal human ingenuity and acceptable risk to her was clearly viewed differently by the Confederation species. During a break in the presentations, Gregory noticed groups of aliens huddled together, speaking in low voices. Whenever humans approached, they would fall silent or quickly change topics. "Something's wrong," he said to Karen Jones. "They're acting like we're dangerous." Karen nodded. "I've seen security personnel following us. They try to be discreet, but they're watching our every move." "I don't understand," Gregory said. "We've been nothing but friendly." What they didn't know was that in another part of the station, the Galactic Security Council had convened an emergency session. The topic, what to do about the humans. Inside that meeting, A tall, spindly alien showed images of human history that their intelligence had gathered. Images of wars, weapons, and environmental damage. These beings, the alien said, evolved as pursuit predators. They hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They developed tools specifically to kill from a distance. Their history is filled with conflict. And now they have reached the stars. The council members looked grim as they debated what some were already calling the human problem. By the third day of the conference, the atmosphere had changed completely. When the human delegation entered rooms, conversations stopped. Alien representatives who had been friendly now found excuses to be elsewhere. The few who did speak to the humans asked strange questions about human aggression and warfare. "Did I say something wrong yesterday?" William Foster asked as they ate breakfast in their quarters. That insect-like delegate practically ran away when I approached him. "It's not just you," Susan Miller said. "They're avoiding all of us. And have you noticed how they travel in groups now? Like they're afraid to be alone with a human." Gregory Palmer looked troubled. "I spoke with Vex this morning. He seemed nervous, even for him. When I asked directly if there was a problem, he said something odd about natural behaviors and how we shouldn't change who we are." "Change who we are?" Frank Rodriguez frowned. "What does that mean?" Before anyone could answer, Olivia Martinez burst into the room. Her face was pale. "Someone's been in our system," she said, holding up her tablet. "Our computers have been accessed." Frank was immediately on his feet. "What was taken?" "Nothing as far as I can tell," Olivia said. "But someone installed monitoring devices in our quarters while we were at yesterday's meetings." The room went silent as the implications sank in. "They're spying on us," Karen Jones said finally. "But why?" "We're guests at a peace conference." Gregory stood up. "I'm going to speak with High Counselor Zim. This has gone far enough." As Gregory and Karen headed to request a meeting with the Confederation leadership, Dr. Foster decided to visit the station's library. He hoped to find some answers in the historical archives. The library was a massive room with information terminals designed for various species. William found one he could use and began searching for information about the Confederation's history. He was so absorbed in his research that he didn't notice when he accidentally accessed a restricted section. Suddenly, classified files appeared on his screen. Current debates among Confederation leaders about humanity. William's eyes widened as he read. One faction argued that humans were too dangerous to include in galactic society. Another suggested that Earth should be isolated behind a quarantine boundary. There were even proposals to restrict human technological development to safe levels. "This can't be right," William whispered to himself. He quickly downloaded the files to his device before anyone noticed his access. Meanwhile, Gregory's request for a meeting was denied. The official reason was scheduling conflicts, but he knew that was a lie. As he and Karen walked back to their quarters, they noticed increased security in the corridors. Guards from various species watched them pass, hands hovering near weapons. "They're afraid of us," Karen said quietly. "Actually afraid of us." In their quarters, they found the rest of the team gathered around William's screen. "You need to see this," he said, showing them the files he'd found. "They've been debating whether we're too dangerous from the beginning." Susan read through the documents with growing alarm. According to this, most Confederation species evolved as prey animals. They developed intelligence to avoid predators, not to become better hunters. "That's why they're scared of us," Samantha realized. "From their perspective, we're apex predators who develop technology. That's never happened before in their history." Frank looked grim. "And predators with spaceships are their worst nightmare." Gregory studied a document showing a proposal to contain Earth. "They're considering quarantining our entire solar system." "Can they do that?" Peter asked. "Their technology is more advanced than ours," Olivia said. "If enough species agree, yes, they probably could." That evening, as the humans tried to come up with a plan, they received an unexpected message. It was from a small faction of Confederation scientists who had been studying human culture with fascination rather than fear. Not everyone sees you as a threat. The message read, "Some of us recognize the unique path your species has taken. But you must understand, to many here, your very nature is terrifying. A group of hardliners is pushing for immediate action against Earth. You have very little time to change minds." Gregory looked at his team. "We need to show them who we really are. Not just what we're capable of, but how we use those capabilities. And fast," Karen added, looking at the message again, "because it sounds like some of them are preparing to act against us." The next morning, the human delegation prepared to make their case to the Confederation. But before they could leave their quarters, they heard a commotion in the corridor outside. "What's going on?" Susan asked, moving toward the door. Frank pulled her back. "Wait, let me check first." He opened the door carefully and looked out. 3 alien security officers were arguing with Vex. Behind them stood a group of official-looking aliens from different species. "I must speak with them first," Vex was saying. "This is not the proper protocol." One of the security officers, a tall being with 4 arms, stepped forward. "The Security Council has made its decision. The humans are to be contained until arrangements for their return to Earth are complete." Gregory joined Frank at the door. "Is there a problem?" he asked calmly. The aliens turned, startled by his sudden appearance. The 4-armed security officer reached for a weapon at his side. What happened next occurred so quickly that later accounts would differ. The security officer's weapon started to rise. Frank Rodriguez moved instinctively, putting himself between the weapon and Gregory. In one smooth motion, he deflected the officer's arm upward, causing the weapon to discharge harmlessly into the ceiling. The corridor erupted in chaos. Alarms blared. More security officers appeared at both ends of the corridor. The human delegation found themselves surrounded. "Nobody move," Karen shouted, her military training taking over. "We are peaceful delegates. There is no need for weapons." For a tense moment, it seemed violence was inevitable. Then a new voice spoke from behind the security team. "Lower your weapons, all of you." The voice belonged to an elderly Zoraxian. His skin was a deeper blue than Vex's, and he moved with the slow dignity of great age. "Elder Diplomat Mero," Vex said with surprise. "The Security Council did not inform you." "I am well aware what the Council decided without proper consultation," the elder Zoraxian said. "And I am equally aware that what we are witnessing is precisely why such hasty action is dangerous." He turned to the security officers. "Did you not see what just happened? The human could have harmed Officer Dax, but he did not. He merely prevented harm." The elderly Zoraxian approached Frank and Gregory without fear. "You showed restraint when threatened. That is not the action of a mindless predator." "We never claimed to be predators," Gregory said. "We came in peace." "Yes," Elder Mero said. "That is the great puzzle you present to us. Please, will you and your team join me in my private chamber? I believe it is time for honest conversation." 20 minutes later, the human delegation sat in a comfortable room with Elder Mero and representatives from 5 other species who had supported his intervention. "I must explain something difficult," Elder Mero began. "Most Confederation species evolved very differently from humans. We were prey animals who developed intelligence as a survival strategy. Our histories have little conflict between members of the same species. We solved problems through cooperation and avoidance, not competition and confrontation." "And humans evolved as predators," Samantha said, understanding dawning. "Yes," a small furry alien said. "Your physical capabilities, your rapid technological development, your ability to endure conditions that would kill us, these all suggest predator evolution. When you casually mentioned your history of warfare, many Confederation members were horrified." "But we've overcome much of our violent past," William protested. "We've built peaceful societies." "That is what makes you unique," Elder Mero said. "And, to many, frightening. You are predators who developed empathy, cooperation, and technology simultaneously. This has never happened before in our records. Susan leaned forward. So when we thought we were being friendly, you were showing behaviors that, to prey species, seemed like clever predator tactics, finished a crystalline being. Your smiles show teeth. Your laughter resembles hunting calls to some species. Your casual discussion of dangerous topics suggests hidden aggression. We never meant to frighten anyone, Gregory said. We believe you, Elder Marrow said. But now we face a crisis. The Security Council has voted to isolate Earth. They fear what humans might become if fully integrated into the galactic community. They can't just cut us off from the stars, Olivia said. We've only just found you. There is still hope, Elder Marrow said. If you can prove to the full Confederation that humans, despite your evolutionary path, are truly committed to peace. Gregory looked at his team, then back at the elder diplomat. Tell us what we need to do. The full Confederation Assembly gathered the next day. All 27 species were represented, with the human delegation standing in the center of the Great Hall. The mood was tense, with security officers positioned at every exit. High Counselor Zim called the session to order. We are here to determine the future relationship between the Confederation and Earth. The Security Council has proposed isolation measures for humanity's homeworld. Gregory Palmer stepped forward. The past night had been spent in intense preparation with Elder Marrow and his allies. This was humanity's one chance to change minds. Honored representatives, Gregory began, we understand your fears. We have learned that our very nature seems dangerous to you. But I ask you to consider what that nature truly means. He gestured to his team. Yes, humans evolved as predators. Our bodies can endure conditions that would harm many of you. We have moved quickly from primitive technology to the stars. Our history includes conflict. Murmurs spread through the assembly at this frank admission. But that same evolutionary path gave us unique strengths. Gregory continued. We learned to protect those weaker than ourselves. We developed medicine to heal, not just to survive. We created art and music that express our deepest emotions. We built societies based on cooperation, not just competition. Karen Jones stepped forward next. I am a military officer. I was trained to fight. But I was also trained to maintain peace, to protect civilians, and to show restraint. The greatest warriors on Earth are those who know when not to fight. William Foster spoke about human scientific achievements. We seek knowledge not to dominate, but to understand. When we learn something new, our first instinct is to share it, not keep it secret. Samantha Lee described human medicine. We heal even our enemies. Our doctors treat all patients equally, regardless of differences. We value all life. One by one, the human delegation showed a different side of humanity, not denying their nature, but revealing how it had shaped them in unexpected ways. Finally, Gregory proposed a new treaty. We understand we are different. We accept that our ways may seem strange or even frightening. So we propose special protocols for human interaction with the Confederation. He outlined a plan where humans would agree to certain restrictions while in Confederation space. They would share safety protocols that made their dangerous technology manageable. They would establish cultural exchange programs so both sides could learn from each other. We do not ask you to ignore your instincts, Gregory said. We ask only that you judge us by our actions, not your fears. When he finished, the hall was silent. Then Elder Marrow stood. I have spent time with these humans, he said. Yes, they are different. But difference is not danger. The Confederation was formed because we believed diverse species could learn from each other. If we reject humans because their path was different from ours, we betray our founding principles. Debate erupted throughout the assembly. Some species remained firmly opposed to human integration. Others were willing to consider Gregory's proposal. A few spoke strongly in favor of giving humans a chance. After hours of discussion, High Counselor Zim called for a vote. The tension in the room was thick as the results were calculated. by a margin of 16 to 11. Zim announced, with the human proposal accepted with modifications, Earth will be welcomed as a probationary member of the Galactic Confederation. Relief washed over the human delegation. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a start. In the days that followed, they worked with Confederation representatives to finalize the details of the agreement. Samantha developed medical guidelines to prevent cross-species contamination. Olivia shared human safety protocols. Frank helped design security measures that would make both humans and aliens feel comfortable. When it was time to return to Earth, Gregory stood on the observation deck of the Olive Branch, looking back at the space station. "Well," Karen said, joining him, "that wasn't exactly the peaceful first contact we expected." Gregory smiled. "No, but maybe it was the one we needed. We learned as much about ourselves as we did about them." As the ship turned toward Earth, he thought about the message they would bring home. Humans had a unique place in the cosmos, beings who had risen from predator instincts to create a peaceful society. It would be a challenging role, being the galaxy's gentle giants, but Gregory believed humanity was ready for it. The stars stretched out before them, no longer just distant lights, but homes of new friends and allies who were waiting to see what humans would do next.